All right. G'day, guys. Welcome from Sydney. It is awesome to be with you. It is not awesome that I am not physically with you. This obviously is the highlight of my year being at NDC. I get to travel from Sydney, Australia over to Norway, and that has become my favorite place in Europe. And this year was going to be super special because today I was meant to be in this session with you with my daughter, who I was taking from New York. So we were all prepared, and coronavirus has killed that for us, but obviously I'll see you next year. And also today is my 50th birthday. So I turned 50 today, and I'm spending my evening with you. Actually, I just got that wrong. I turn 50 tomorrow, but it'll be 50 with you. Right over there. So anyway, here is my talk for today. I'm talking about Chinafy, and tomorrow I'll be talking with you again with Todd Fine. We'll be talking about how to build a consulting firm. Todd Fine works for Intellect. I work for SSW, and we go through how we did that. But let's focus on China, because China is a big place, and we need to get familiar with it. I can tell you that if you look at the area of the Southeast Asia, you've got Korea, you've got Japan, you've got Vietnam, China, etc. You've got a third of the world's population there, and China understand the West, and we in the West don't understand the East. And unfortunately, we are going to see very rapidly, it's going to be very obvious that China has overtaken America. I think if you look at a lot of the stats now, you'll see they already have. There's a couple that they have in GDP and some others, but reality, they've already surpassed the United States, especially in the tech world. And if you measure purchases online, etc., they're well in advance. Obviously, to compete back when we start realizing we need to do better and there's a big market in China, we will use a lot of our techniques that work when we compete. And they're not going to work in China, and we're going to be baffled. Why don't these things work? And it's because we don't understand the culture. And hopefully tonight, a little bit of that understanding will help you compete in China. So the way I've structured my talk is I've got a history, and I want to talk about the Great Firewall and living in a mobile-first world, and who are the big dogs in China, what is the cloud story, and how do you succeed in China? So lots of stuff to cover. My name is Adam Cogan. I run SSW. We are a gold partner. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director. I have been using Azure since the very, very beginning. And I also have been running an office in China for more than 10 years. So it has been an experience, and sometimes it's been easy, sometimes it's been hard. We have a mobile app, and I would love you to go ahead and install that and scan this QR code and get the app installed, and I'll give you a QR code at the end to earn some points. Now, you think of communism. I went there when I was 20, and communism, this is what I first saw when I went there. Everybody dressed like this, in these old Mao suits. There wasn't a lot of, the communication was terrible. The poverty was substantial. But if you go there now, this is not the story. China is very advanced. The guys in my China office drive better cars than the guys in my Sydney office. They might be communist, which essentially means they don't get to vote. They have a one-party state, but it does not mean they don't want to make money. They love making money. They're very capitalist, but they live within more constraints than we live in. This is Xi Jinping. Read about him, get to know him. He operates differently. he certainly operates differently than Donald Trump, and you probably spend too much time learning about him. He's a distraction. Learn about this guy because he is more subtle. He is definitely authoritarian. He's very clear on his anti-corruption message. He's also, it appears, a nation builder. He's going outside China. He's made it crystal clear China will be number one. And I think you would also say he's fairly innovative. He makes these big plans, Made in China 2025, Belt and Road Project, makes big things. And, when you look at the US, Donald Trump might announce something, but the structure of the, country is they argue about it, when he announces something, it's kind of, okay, this is going to be an economic zone. Great. It becomes an economic zone. Okay, let's do all that and take advantage of that and do whatever, is the plan. So everything in China is enormous. It's big, just being in a high rise looking out, you just, wow, the scale is enormous. It took a long time to work this out, but there's essentially Beijing, there's three areas, and they kind of got triangle cities because there's a few cities around each one. But there's kind of the Beijing area, which is essentially the government area. That's where I first went, and I went there because Microsoft were there, and I set up my office there. There's Shanghai and the cities around Shanghai, such as Hangzhou. That is kind of the e-commerce or the financial areas. And then there's Guangzhou, all right, and that is kind of the hardware areas, Shenzhen, etc. Alibaba. Where's Alibaba? Well, they're in the e-commerce world, and they are down here in the middle, okay, in Hangzhou. AliCloud, anyone who is deployed to China will have learned a lot of lessons, and that should be on your bucket list. I want to deploy my app in China, and I want to measure the users that I have there. I was talking to Jason Taylor, one of the guys at SSW. We were walking through this talk, and I was telling him the scale is enormous. It's just enormous. And I was sharing screens with him, and I saw him do this. How many users Alibaba? And he was just double checking when I said it's enormous. These companies are bigger than Facebook. And he sees 552 million. And I go, Jason, that isn't even the biggest thing. I know you're impressed, but if you go to WeChat, that's 1 billion users. It's enormous. And that's daily active users. This is the city I spend a lot of my time in. I spent 3 months here last year, and that is Hangzhou. It's quite a beautiful city. The Microsoft office in this city was ranked the prettiest Microsoft office in the world. This is on the other side of that lake. It's called West Lake, and that's quite nice. I've walked around that a few times. This is the structure of that city, and I kind of had to work out where am I going to put myself. And there's Alibaba and AliCloud. Everything Alibaba is cool. If you want to see some cool things, watch some videos by Jack Ma, M-A. Just Google. He's like Richard Branson. Okay, but funny, and he is really charismatic, good character. Now we've got Huawei down here. They're also down south, and NetEase kind of an older style. Think of them like Yahoo, but they're very big in kind of Western distribution of goods. And they got the university there. I set up my office over here to be somewhere close to these guys. You hear this statement, China is hard, okay? Every person you come across, it is very, very difficult working in China. So I want to take you through some of the lessons that I've learned over these years. Let me start with the history. 1992, Microsoft goes to China. Then in 99, Alibaba kicks off. Baidu Search takes over, and Amazon enter China. Now, around this time, I'm spending quite a bit of effort with trying to get things up and running. Amazon's big, Google's big. Anything that's West is popular because the Chinese love the cool Western companies. And the goal is for the very best students to work for a Western company, whoever they are. Alibaba releases Alipay. Think of that like PayPal, but totally painless and for microtransactions. 2005, Google enters China. Okay, and then in 2009, finally I have an office up and running, and I'm pretty happy with that. 2009 is also the year that the Great Wall of China pops up. Okay, so just in terms of 10 years later, we get COVID-19 happening, okay, in Wuhan. All right, so this is kind of what happens here. So China gets a massive amount of cases and they shut things down very, very fast. Okay, basically, some of our guys who had holidayed in areas, because this happened during Lunar New Year, and they told us how the government comes and basically bars their door, so they can't come out, and you're only allowed to leave every 3 days, one person in the family, etc., etc. But they were very militant on getting rid of it, and so as you saw, the US started pretty bad, and it's got much worse, and it's terrible. So and this just went on and on and on. It's been a terrible tragedy. So we during this time when things kicked off I didn't even know coronavirus would eventually leave China at the time, but we got a call from the Chinese government. There is this virus in Wuhan. It's an emergency. We need to make a database quick smart. So we actually built the coronavirus database. So then there is the Great Firewall. So let's talk about this Great Firewall in 2009. Google gets blocked, Twitter gets blocked, Facebook gets blocked. All these Western companies are getting blocked, and it's really, really weird. And we think that it's going to stop because Google Mail would work one day and Google Mail would stop the next day. Then it would come back, and it was in the infancies of this Great Firewall of China, which ended up being incredibly resilient and completely, screwing their access the entire internet. So they have a sub part of the internet, and essentially, I initially felt very sorry for everybody in China, because all the techie guys installed a VPN. But it wasn't long before the devs go, God, we want our own Twitter. So they make an app like Twitter, but different. We want Facebook. They make an app like Facebook, but essentially a completely different ecosystem develops. And it's, some is not as good. A lot of it is much, much better, especially the micropayments. And we'll talk about that. So it's really, really hard, but to talk about being equivalent, you got YouTube, all right? And that is UQ. And you got Google, and that is Baidu, all right? And eBay has Taobao, okay? And Taobao actually means hunting for treasure. It's like a site where you buy cheap trinkets everywhere, but they have everything. You can't not find something on Taobao. And then they have fancier sites like upper market, Tmall and sites like that. They got WeChat, which is like Facebook, but not really like Facebook actually. And you got PayPal like Alipay, not really. You got Twitter, Weibo, Uber, and Didi. They are very much alike. In fact, I really like Didi, and Didi is all over Australia now. So then this COVID-19 meant that everybody had to work from home, and this huge experiment of working from home really kicked off in China first, where the universities were shut down. All the students had to work from home because they just weren't allowed to get out. All businesses shut down. Everybody had to work from home. So, Zoom and Slack and Confluence and SharePoint and Teams and all these ones that we use in the West is not the story over there. They all start using WeChat, and they start using an app a bit like Teams called DingTalk, okay? And one of the funny things about DingTalk is, it'd been around for a fair while, but all the university students now had to get their notes on DingTalk and stuff. And the app rating, because university students are now being forced to use DingTalk, they hate it. So they start rating it on the App Store and other places. Hey, I hate this, and giving it 1 star, and all of a sudden the stars of it, if you go and have a look at it, it plummeted. So how many users use DingTalk? Okay, 200 million. Okay, it's big. It's quite good, actually. And I do expect them to eventually start taking the West seriously, and it'll be a real competitor to some of the apps that we know and love, like Microsoft Teams. Okay, so they also, this isn't big yet, but expect it. WeChat Work got released. And let's see what happens with that, but I think it will be substantial. And this other one, Feishu, it also got released, and it might become big too. So, basically Alibaba and Tencent own WeChat. These guys kind of compete hard. They've got the same of each. Like when you look at Facebook and Amazon, they're not exactly the same, right? One's a e-commerce, one's a social media. Google have some crossover, but these guys kind of compete market by market. They've got one of each. It's actually even better competition when you think about it. So one little thing, took me a long time to really notice this, but they all love their little animal in their brand. JD has a dog, Tmall has a cat, Sunny has a lion, Alipay has an ant, Tencent has a penguin, Baidu has a bear, etc., etc., etc. All right. So let's just talk about fair and square competition. I just want you to get an idea that they're fairly strong when they compete. If we take a case study of taxis, taxis were released in 1897 in New York. And then, they crossed the country within 12 years in San Francisco. And then it takes, a decade later, and then we've got Uber. And Uber arrives, and that's huge, and it's huge fast. So then, a few years later, Uber comes to Australia. And let's compare that with what happened in China. So in 1903, taxis start in China, in Harbin, right north, where all those ice statues are, and it's quite a cold city. And it takes, kind of 55 years to get halfway down the country to Hangzhou. And in 2012, Didi arrives and Uber arrives in China, and both compete head for head. There is a war, and this war was insane to watch. Basically, the price of getting in an Uber or a Didi plummets, and the people riding it are paying less than what these companies are paying to their drivers. It's insane. But what happened was the whole middle, the middle class just got addicted to ride sharing. And eventually this competing killed Uber. They just couldn't handle it anymore. They were burning too much cash doing this. Uber gives up and Didi wins. Didi then expand to Brazil and Mexico and into Australia, Taiwan, and they're just going to keep expanding city by city by city. And they're seriously big, and they're seriously tough in competition. So I wrote a blog about it. I won't go through it now, but I just wrote a blog about all these companies going from China outside, and expect this to accelerate now with COVID-19, because you're going to see the biggest manufacturer in the world, America. They've got millions and millions of people out of work. They got 110,000 people dead. They've got a lot of people sick, and all these people, millions and millions of people. I think it's 40 million people are now out of work. All those people now also lose their health care, which also means they get sick eventually, and there's a lot less productivity going on in the US. China, expect them to take advantage of that. Now, what we need to do is we need to also know that they like buying stuff. They love buying stuff. And if you think about, like, most of our customers, they make money in Australia, good money in Australia. They make good money in the US, and they make some money in Europe. And they have 0 users in China. They actually don't even register because the site doesn't even work. They haven't even tested for China. They haven't even fixed it up so it works through the Great Firewall of China, which is a damn shame. It's just a lost market. It's like making a site that doesn't do SEO. Like, you can't find it on Google, you'd fix it. Why don't you just fix it so it works in China? So China is expanding out. AliExpress, WeChat, DiDi, DJI, the drone company, they're big. So China announces this plan, or Xi Jinping essentially says, "All right, this is what I want. We are going to do this, this, and this. We want to make top quality products." And he puts in there something to the effect of, when you hear "made in Germany," what do you think? Well, we think good quality or expensive cars. Anything made in Germany is great. Okay. When anyone visits our house, my wife likes to say, here's the kitchen. It's very nice, new kitchen. They're my knives. They're made in Germany. She mentions that because it's good quality. Xi Jinping wants, when you hear "made in China," that means good quality. Okay, that's a goal. He also wants to make sure "made in China" means we make the top. We make the finished product. We don't make components for everyone else to package up and then say, that he doesn't want to make the little bits. He wants to make the finished product. The phones, the TVs, the whatever is the product, he wants to make it. And the other thing is go green. He wants products to be green, and this is all set out in this Made in China 2025. Now, what's this? When you look at this, you see China at the center and these big corridors coming, all right? And these are shipping lanes, etc. This is called the Belt and Road Project. And this Belt and Road Project, kind of is a massively huge plan for infrastructure to get stuff in and out of China quickly. It's so big, it's we're talking $13 trillion. It's enormous. And it's called One Belt, One Road, and expect influences socially, military, and financial. So the first thing you'll start seeing, it's easy to get stuff in and out. Expect that, you muck around, all these areas that they have, they can potentially take control of, or they'll have a more dominant role. China's always stayed inside, but they are definitely expanding. And socially, you might not like this whole concept. This has changed. Lots of people don't like the sound of this. But what about when you start seeing these beautiful ads about how cool this Belt and Road Project all over Facebook? You'll start seeing things like this, and our kids are going to grow up and go, "Oh, it's pretty cool. Wow, how nice that the Chinese government did all this stuff." So expect all that. Now, a good example of this is Shenzhen. Shenzhen was just a little fishing town with a couple of thousand people. And, the plan by the Chinese government is, let's make that what they call an SEC, a special SEZ, a special economic zone. And this thing, we're going to pour some money in, we're going to do this, and people swamp there. And if you go to Shenzhen now, it's no fishing town. It is enormous. It's amazing. You've never seen anything. You got like 10 stories of every component you can. You walk out of that to another building. Every type of component for building phones or building, cameras, or everything is there. It's just an incredible hardware city. Now, this One Belt, One Road project is going to impact 62% of the world's population. It is going to affect 4.4 billion people, and there's 65 countries already participating. Donald Trump tweets the heart of the issue with the concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make the US manufacturing non-competitive. Okay, and obviously, I'm not sure if it was in jest or serious, but it is kind of not very productive. If you talk to people, they will tell you, well, if you look at Bloomberg stats, and there's many of these out there, but it looks like in 2030 or 2029, the Chinese are going to overtake America. Now, these stats were before COVID-19, but I think that it might be earlier. I would also tell you, I think if this is what you're looking at, you're not looking at the right stuff. China has already overtaken America if you are looking at other stats. And let's talk about those. Okay, I do want you to be aware that this was very bad for China. COVID-19 massively affected growth more than at first. They were the first country to be hit, and they were hit really hard. Now, since then, you will see the rest of the world will take a bigger hit than China because they took a bitter pill very hard when nobody could work, and they're now all back normal. So things in China are back to total normal, except you have new regulations. If you're inside an office, you have to wear a face mask and some small changes, but basically, by and large, it's back to normal, where it's not in the West. Here is the what the experts say in terms of what change you'll see. You'll see that China will drop, but you'll also see China come back hard. You'll also see America and Australia come back, but you know, who knows if these are accurate, okay? But it does suggest that America will be hit harder than anyone, but they'll also come back. So, and that might be true. All right, so let's, I just included this because I just thought it was funny. That Belt and Road project just reminded me of the Silk Road. It just looks kind of that whole story again. Okay, now if you want to know more about your specific country, such as Norway, go to this URL and it will exactly say what each country is doing, what they've signed up for on the Belt and Road project. It's kind of interesting. Okay, all right. So this Belt and Road project is going to be big, and I think that what you really want to understand is the Chinese middle class want to buy stuff. They love Western stuff. They love, especially if it's anything to do with food or skincare products, they don't like Chinese products for that. They don't trust it. Some of the vitamin companies in Australia have made an absolute killing in China, especially on their sale days. They love purchasing online more than we do, okay? And they purchase a lot. Let's look at a lot. Black Friday and Cyber Monday are huge days in America, huge. But look at Singles Day. It is much bigger. Now, Singles Day is a day that was invented by Jack Ma. And Jack Ma essentially would look at these Black Friday and Cyber Monday days and go, wow, we need a sales day in China. And so what we'll do is we'll have a day, and they call it, 11/11, so, 6/11. And what we'll do is we will have a big day. And the concept of it is you buy something for yourself. And I've been in China when they do this, and it kind of seems silly. You're not buying something for someone else. You're buying something for yourself. So, like if I was to go out and participate in a day and go, all right, I'm going to buy myself a present, I think my wife would think I'm kind of crazy. But they don't buy for themselves one thing. They buy themselves a lot. So when you're in the office and it's Singles Day, all these deliveries turn up and they've got like a pile, massive pile. And this is like per person. They're just buying a lot of crap. And I asked them why they're so keen, because it's fun. It's like Christmas. But it's because the deals are so good on those days. They feel foolish not to buy electric bikes and buy all these gadgets and widgets and stuff. It's amazing. Anyway, so 32 billion in sales in 2018 on Singles Day. They set all the records. They've exceeded it since then. In 24 hours, 1.4 billion transactions. Okay, I think the stat was in 20 minutes, Singles Day had passed Cyber Monday. All right, so that's like the scale. We're talking crazy transactions. So it's nearly bigger It's nearly double that of Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday and Cyber Monday all combined. So we're talking huge scale. Let's talk about the mobile first world, okay? What you'll find out of those 1.4 billion users, they use their PC much less. When you go into a meeting in China, you know, when we talk about legacy apps and what have you got, what's all the stuff you have in your company? In the West, in Europe or Australia, we will start talking about, all right, we need a mobile app for this, and we've got these old legacy things. What's legacy? Sometimes Windows apps and things like that. In China, when you have the same meetings and you talk legacy, what do they think legacy is? They're referring to kind of their websites. You know, that stuff is on a website. We haven't got a WeChat mini app for that or whatever. So it's always a different conversation with legacy. Anyway, what I wanted you to know is of all those purchases, 90% of those come from mobile phones. Like, you know, in the West, we work during the day and then, all right, so for, for these sale days, you go home and you pull up a couple of screens and you compare this and this and you purchase. They don't do any of that. They just go on their phone, they purchase, you know, and it kind of happens all day long. So I want you to know, to the Chinese, what are the 4 mobile apps? They have native apps. They have web apps, all right, not as popular. They have these official accounts on WeChat, which are a little bit like the Facebook pages kind of. And then they got these mini apps, okay, mini programs. And these mini apps are like self-installing. They're like, it's like WeChat is a super app, and you can put, you know, it installs these extra ones. I'll go through them in a sec. So first step, go ahead and install WeChat. All right. So let's open up our phones now and let's install WeChat. I know some of you are going to say, no way, I'm not doing that. I got this stat, you know, some years ago, and this was when I thought WeChat was going to kind of peter out. And you can see this is crazy growth. Let's look at this. This is the next few years after that. The growth just never seems to stop. It's insane. So in terms of payments, in the West, this is what we're using in our payments. The most popular payment system in the West is PayPal. Okay, thanks Elon Musk for that. Apple Pay is growing quite a bit, and people use Stripe and, you know, different payment systems. Now, in China, they don't use these. They use Alipay and WeChat Pay. These are the big kahunas, and they're big. So let's look at mobile wallet usage. You can see that I was very surprised to see Germany so low, okay? And, you know, the United States and Singapore are level pegging, and they're pretty advanced places. I'd like to see that Australia is doing better. Makes me feel good. But then you've got even better countries, and that is Japan, the UK, and Norway. Look at Norway. Norway's stats are out of control. And that is because you have the person-to-person app, you know, which other countries don't have. So you've got a government app, and that allows you to really be an advanced place for mobile wallet usage. But you're not as advanced as China. Look at that. And those stats are growing faster than you. So that's awesome. Now, what I want you to understand, something else that appeared and took me by surprise. I was at dinner in Beijing with a couple of my guys, and they keep the conversation in English to be polite to me, even when they're talking about something that doesn't relate to me at all. And I saw them doing something with their phone and comparing over dinner. And I didn't know what this was. Can you say that again? What was that? Oh, it's just, you know, some Sesame credit, Alipay points. What is that, Alipay? How come I've never seen it? Where's it? Oh, you don't have it, Adam, because it's only for Chinese citizens. In your Alipay, you know, you're not a Chinese citizen. You don't have a Chinese ID, so it doesn't show it for you. And it got me looking. So, a year or two ago, I'm looking at this. What is this? You've got 800, you've got 750, you care about this. And I started asking around the office, and they all care about it, and it's kind of funny. So let me just tell you, in 2015, this SESME credit, I don't know, but I think they call it SESME because every little basic thing you do adds up. It's authorized by the Chinese government, the People's Bank of China. They've got over 700 million accounts just in the Alipay app. And you get benefits the higher your points are, okay? The guys in my China office even put their current rating on the dating apps that they use. So these numbers mean something to them. Like, obviously, if you're I don't know, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, imagine that I put I'm a Qantas Gold member on my dating profile, but maybe that shows that I'm a good flyer or something, but it is super unusual. Now, be aware that the Chinese government have authorized Alibaba and about 15 other companies to have this point system, and there's some regulation that those points have to go back to the Chinese government. You can imagine what they're going to do is they're going to grab that data, they're going to amalgamate it, consolidate it, and well, they'll know a lot about you, more than Facebook. All right. So you can earn lots of points. You can pay bills on time and get more points. You can, by the way, this is a dark art. I don't know exactly. It's just like Google had a page rank, and you don't know exactly, but you can do lots of things and see certain things growing. But it appears that if you donate to charities, you get more points. If you get good shopper ratings from other people, you deliver on time and you do what you said you would do, you get more points. If you have a better car, there's been reports Tesla owners get more points when they buy that. Properties. And then it appears that your friends, their rating affects your rating. So it is, you don't want to become friends with someone with a low SESME credit number. All right. If you've got a degree, you seem to get more points, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of, if you work at a good company, et cetera. Okay. So you can lose points by not paying bills on time, doing untrustworthy behavior, getting complaints, and stuff like that. So let's talk about these big apps in China. And these big apps in China are Alipay, Taobao, okay, JD, okay, great shopping site, Baidu Maps, they've all got maps. Erlenmeyer means are you hungry? And everybody loves this because anything you want can be bought by just using Erlenmeyer. It's like an aggregator of every place. So I was in my office, and one of the things you notice is in the West, we use delivery as well, but we don't, well, certainly in Australia, I've never seen anyone deliver coffee. But there's no hassle at all in China. Everybody delivers coffee and has it delivered. They wouldn't go down the street to get coffee. They just have it delivered. In fact, I had my daughter there for those 3 months, and, she was 14, and she, like an ice cream arrived at the office. And I go, Ruby, you can't order an ice cream. Don't. Why? It's only 40 cents to deliver it, So it is very, very cheap and very fast. And when they're late, they say sorry. They say sorry in not just words, in action. So what they do is if they turn up with all your coffees, but instead of taking the normal 20 minutes, they've taken 40 minutes, they say sorry by giving you a whole lot of what's called red packets. So you grab a whole lot of red packets. You can't use them yourself. You have to distribute them out. And the polite way of doing it is you distribute it out to everyone in the office. And so everyone else earns red packets. It's kind of a real gamification system. Anyway, WeChat is a huge. Weibo, QQ Music, it just goes on and on and on. Weibo is just like Twitter, by the way. Okay, so QQ Music, think Apple Music, I guess. Now, China have a super app. They can live without Apple, Google, Microsoft, almost all those other apps, except WeChat. Okay, WeChat they cannot live without. It is instant messages. It is the moments is like the wall. You got payments. You're kind of one or the other. Most people are either an Alipay person or a WeChat person. But it's just you're a little bit aligned to one, but they all seem to use both anyway. But the big guy is these mini apps, okay, these mini programs, and they're really important. So let me just walk you through an experience which I had many, many, many times, and it's kind of, you get used to it. You turn up to a restaurant. You don't get greeted by a waiter who's going to pass you a menu and stuff. You just get put at a table. You just put it, go down, you sit at a free table. Everybody at the table has a little QR code. Everybody pulls out their phone. They scan it, up comes the menu, you choose what you're having. The app knows which table you're sitting at, and you pick what you want, and good to go. So then you know what you're eating. I guess for the rest of the time, you can all look at the app and see where the delivery's up to, where they've started cooking this, they've done that, that's being prepared, and then it says finished, and then that's your first interaction with the waiter or waitress, who will then bring the meal over to you. And cool, so that's it. You don't even have to tip anyone. So it is very cool, and this happens everywhere. If you want to deliver something, you want to send a package, you open up WeChat, okay? You find either the official account or the mini program. Someone arrives and they turn up with their phone, their QR code, you open yours, you scan theirs, they say, all right, and you hand over your, I don't know, whatever it is, the camera that you're selling or whatever, and off it goes, and now you can watch the app and see, it's being delivered, look at it go. And then when it gets delivered, the other person scans, and it's amazing. Anyway, you can watch this. By the way, on the UI, if it goes red, that's good, okay? And when something bad happens, like on the UI, that's red too. So yeah, it's awesome, hey? All right, so queue. Everywhere in China is busy. Everything has queues. You turn up to a restaurant, there's a queue. You have to scan a thing, you get a number. You turn up to a government organization to pay an electricity bill. You scan a QR code, and they just don't wait in long queues. They just get a number there, and when it is your turn, you walk up, you're done. So everything's fairer too. It's very fair. It's not whoever pushes in or etc. So you scan it, you watch your number, and you just watch the status. And there's this kind of system that happens everywhere. So what should you know about these two payment gateways? All right. The Chinese do not use a credit card. They do not carry cash. I can tell you, in those 3 months I was in China, I didn't use my credit card once, and I didn't use cash once. I just used Alipay, WeChat Pay all the way. They always carry their phone. They don't carry keys either. The front doors of all the homes I went to just have a tap, a Bluetooth tap. The funny thing that they do always carry, they carry their phone and tissues, okay? And everybody carries that. Like I would say most people in the West just carry their keys and a wallet and their phone and not tissues. But in China, when you go into a toilet, there is never any toilet paper. And I believe it's because people nick it. So you always have to carry your own. And it's kind of funny. When on the first day that I was in my office with my daughter, she says, she comes into my office and she says, Dad, the toilet. There's no toilet there. It's just a hole. I said, darling, that's normal. That's normal all through Asia. And she goes, oh, right. I said, yeah, it's called a squat toilet. Get used to it. She goes, oh, right, okay. So I go back over to her desk 10 minutes later. I'm seeing her on YouTube watching videos how to use a squat toilet. I just thought it was funny to see how young people learn things rather than just ask. Anyway, so, all right. Now, I won't go through this, but there's a video here watching Ruby go through the whole purchasing experience and, you know, scan the code, etc. Now, one of the things that took me a while to notice, and it's very subtle in the video, is that when you pay, and the person always looks away and just gives you the good. And I'm always thinking, why don't they wait that extra 3 seconds to see if it was verified or unverified? You know, your balance could be low or whatever. And finally, I worked it out that when you do that, there is a little voice in the background in Chinese, and it tells them whether the transaction was successful or it failed. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. Now, there's different ways of doing this. You can scan like in the video with Ruby, or you can use in-app web-based payments, or you know, and that's kind of not very popular. You can also use this no equipment needed, where you just scan someone and they just hold up this thing and scan, or you could do person-to-person payments. Even the beggars do it this way. So, you know, when you go to the US, and there's a lot of beggars these days, I don't carry cash. The Chinese beggars have got this completely sorted. You scan it, you give them a couple of dollars, it's good to go. All right, so, and then there is this API, and this is obviously our preferred way of doing it. This is Starbucks working. It's the way that we like to recommend people to go. I was in Hangzhou. It was raining one morning. I was going to speak at an event, and one of the guys from the office was driving me. He turned up early, and I was very grateful to Jerry for doing that. And we're driving along a road, and the roads are big. They've got like 5 lanes, and then he decided he wanted to get into a side one. So he kind of takes a very harsh right-hand turn on a freeway. Anyway, he kiboshes a lady in the car into the side, and that ends up causing all the traffic to stop. He gets out in the rain, talks to her, said something, you know, look what you just did. You did 1,000 yuan of damage to me. And he goes, no, I don't think it's 1,000. Tooting horns everywhere. Oh, that could have only been 600 yuan of damage. She goes, oh, all right. And he holds up his phone. She scans. He gets back in the car. I go, is that solved? Like, do you have to report this? You just damaged a car. He goes, no, Adam, it's all solved. I already paid her. I said, that quick? In 1 minute? He goes, yeah, Adam. That's like, time is money, Adam. I'm just thinking about what would happen for us. We would have an encounter. We would exchange licenses. We'd fill out insurance forms. When we got back to the office, take forever. One little scratch turns into $1,500. Oh, such a nightmare. You know, it's incredible. So one of the things that the scariest thing of all in China is to lose your phone battery, but that's sorted out too, because wherever you go, you can just plug in, you pay a couple of things, you've now got this battery pack, and you leave the restaurant and you go to the next one and you insert it in. You know, nobody does the wrong things. You lose credits on Alipay. Now, all right, so I really want to move ahead and talk about how do you succeed in China? What is involved? So this is what you got to do. And this is an enormous topic. I know, often I talk about this for 1 and 2 day workshops. But here's the guts. Make it work with WeChat. That's really important. Make sure you sort out payments. You've got to fix authentication. It's a little different. Build a mini app. Put QR codes in everything. Do some gamification. Give out coupons. Fix the user experience. Make sure you do a good translation. Pick a Chinese name. Choose a good Chinese cloud and get a good local partner for sales and support. I know how to solve the last one. Okay. So, look, that's a big list. It's too big. To start, the ones you have to sort out is the translation. Now, be aware, Chinese people are always watching to see, is this really Chinese? Every time you receive an email, is that spam? Let me look. They just hover. Chinese people do that on websites to check, is this a Western brand that's moved into China and it's working in China because they're cool with that? Or is this a Western brand in the West and all these bad things happen, like it doesn't work, it gets slow one day, etc. That's one thing to fix. Payments, you got to fix that. You got to fix your authentication so it works like it should in China. And I'm pick a Chinese name because it's so quick and easy, you should do that. So they're the only ones you have to do right now. Okay, so they're the guts. And we do this all the time for companies, and it's not hard. So let's talk about that. Okay, you already know that you've got 1 billion users using WeChat. That's actually more, I think it's 1.2 billion. And it is about a third of the traffic, okay? Plus, they've got 100 million users outside China using WeChat. So install WeChat. It's very easy to reply to people. There's a translate feature there. The more that you're talking to Chinese, the more that you, I think it's good. I think it's good for all relations because, you get to see how they think. You get more educated. They don't think the same as us. And some of the things that aren't a big deal to us are a big deal to them. Basically, the payments, I want you to make sure it must work with Alipay and WeChat Pay. I hope you understand that. PayPal, credit cards, no good. Apple Pay, not really. All right, you can find the odd place. Now, in terms of rates, we're used to 1.5% for Visa and 3.3% for American Express, etc. Alipay, look at this, 6.6%. They've really sorted this micro payment out. What a good deal. Now, the authentication. I've taken 3 shots of 3 popular apps, Taobao, JD, and Weibo. And if you notice this correlation, they put phone numbers up the top. They put the ones that they support down the bottom if you want to use one of those to authenticate. But they don't put username and password there. So mobile phone, and you get an SMS, and that's how you log in. Okay, and there's your third-party authentication at the bottom. So it should follow a style like that. Now, if you want to log into any of the things on a PC or something, this is WeChat. Install it and see how it works. You press login. What happens? It pops this up. You can't log in unless you have your mobile phone on you. And then, if the second time you do it, it will do this. Okay, so you don't have to use a QR code second time. Now, you need to build a mini app. You don't have to, but I recommend it. We have an app called sugarlearning.com, and we want it to be popular in China, so we built a mini app, and this is the mini app working, all right? You got to try mini apps. They're cool. They're self-installing, and they're not another app on your phone. All right, so that's just an example of that working in China. All right, now QR codes for everything. QR codes. So you'll see most of these apps seem to put the QR code near the top. So be aware that any product, anything, you put a QR code on, make sure it scans and pops open and works with your mobile app. And I have done quite a long page here. You can have a look at it. It's really long, just about how QR codes should be treated. And there's a rule on rules to better QR codes. All right, and this is China, just QR codes wherever you go. You don't see an ad, you don't see a product, you don't see a billboard without a QR code on it. I've kind of looked at our About page. On our About page, we have a link to the Contact Us page. It started with send us an email or give us a phone call. And then we added LinkedIn, and then we added Facebook, then we added WeChat. They tried to get me to add Snapchat. Again, no Snapchat, but we have added WeChat. So gamification. These apps all seem to have an extra little step that you can earn some extra coupons, okay? And you can see how those work. I've got some demos on the site so you can have a look. Basically, you hit this, you crack the thing open, you get a couple of red packets. They all have this after you purchase. You can see this silly thing going on here. See? You just hit these things and then this pops open, you've got some points. So it's all good and fun. So here's an example. Somebody in the office, the boss there, just, how we say, hey, I bought you a coffee. They go, oh, I just sent you 20, they send it to the whole office. Now, only one person gets it, they all get this notification on their phone, and then it said, oh, you got 3 of the 20. And then everyone else then goes, who got the most? You know, etc. So that's kind of just how it works. And then you can see who else won. And, you know, Alvin, in this case, won the most of it. It's all fun and games. The user experience. They don't like these plain sites. They like busy sites, really busy sites. That's the way to do it. I know it feels unintuitive, but they're really busy. This is YouTube over there. The comments go over the top. It's how it works. This is another one, and I've given you the links here so you can have a look, but it's hilarious. You're watching a video and all the comments are coming over the top. And of course, you can turn Translate on and you can read what that says in English. Okay, now you can't just use you know, Google Translate to translate. You can't just use a Chinese-speaking person who's grown up in Australia or grown up in Norway and America. It must be a native person, because they use little different phrases. You know, when you get spam and you think, why couldn't they just fix the English? I might not have picked it up. It's the same thing. They notice such small little things. It's amazing. Otherwise, you end up with this assorted risk dish. Okay, pick a Chinese name. I recommend that you either make something sound alike. So LinkedIn became Lin Ying. It's almost the same, and it means, but it's got to mean the same type of thing. So leadership, it means in Chinese. With Sugar Learning, we went with Sugar Learning, which sounds like snow pigeon. And so then we had an animal, which solved that problem as well. You can do what Microsoft do, and they break up micro and soft and do a literal translation. Don't do what Mercedes-Benz did, which tried to do it, and they ended up with Rush to Die. And it was all over WeChat. It was hilarious. Anyway, they had to change it to Run Quickly. All right. So there's lots of long stories about bad names. So get that right. And you've got to choose your right Chinese cloud and get a good partner. SSW is a great partner. We'd be happy to help. Now, let's do a quick exercise to finish. Here we have this page. Is this Chinese or Western? Now, obviously, it's very bad because they haven't done a very good translation. They've got images there as you know, images with text. Bad idea. Okay. There is absolutely no problem with having the logo in English. That's normal. Okay. Even though they could do domain names with Chinese characters, they never do it. They use a lot of numbers in domain names too. Is this a Chinese site or not? Nope, that's definitely a Western site. That's a Western site. I can tell because, look in the top right, bingo. Why is there a Facebook and Twitter logo? That shouldn't be there. All right, DHL. Is this a proper Chinese site? Like, are they in China now? No, this is not proper because they never refer to themselves as Chinese People Republic. All right, that type of stuff they pick up. So there's nothing wrong with writing that, but you got to use the terms they're used to. Is this Louis Vuitton? Are they in China now, or they've just translated to try to do it? No, they're not in China at all because they would be showing Chinese addresses straight away. Okay, things like that. You've got to be aware of all this stuff. You've got to adapt better. So look, be aware that Europe has GDPR, big pain in the neck. We all had to, you know, make our sites compliant. China, it's a pain in the neck. You should be doing it. You have to fix the language, fix the UX, understand the culture of how these things work. Your marketing strategies will be different. There's no Facebook ads and Twitter ads. It is a completely different social media thing. Happy to help with that, or you can do some research on that one. Regulations are different. You're going to have to understand about the storing of data. And using the Chinese cloud will just make it invisible for you. Of course, you can use Azure Mooncake in China, which is our recommended way of doing it because it all just works nicely. You know, there are privacy and censorship issues. I got to tell you, I've never come across one, and I've been involved with a lot of big sites. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. You read about it on Weibo and stuff, but yeah, it's never happens. All right, so remember this. This was the Belt and Road project. I found that amazing because just recently, it appears, with the melting of the North Pole, you can now ship right over to the Netherlands. So maybe Donald Trump was right with his global warming as a Chinese conspiracy, so they get an extra shipping route. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. You can scan the QR code and earn some points on the SSW app and win some prizes. Good gamification, hey? In summary, I hope you understand China seriously is the future. There is lots of money to be made there. You're almost negligent not to tell your client that they should put these Chinafy items on their backlog and fix up their app. Understand the Chinese differences. Try to read, South China Post. It's a good news site. Try to read articles about China. It's important. Try to help others know the steps to Chinafy your app. Remember, Napoleon Bonaparte said, China is the sleeping lion. Let her sleep, for when she wakes, she will shake the world. Thank you.